Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. We are so excited to go over new year and new deals. We have our special guest, Steve Davis, here with us from Total Wealth Academy. So we're really excited to introduce you to him if you're not familiar with his group, and we'll get into that a little bit further. So before we dive in, as always, we're going to go over our disclaimer, and that is that this presentation is for general information only. No information, documents, or estimates presented herein present any final determination on investment performance. Basically, we're saying do your own due diligence before venturing into any deal. But we are excited to provide you information today, and we will have a Q&A at the end. Oh, it's not responding to me. There we go. So we're going to talk a little bit about who we are if you're joining us from Steve's group and you're not familiar with Catalyst. Jeff or Wade, did you guys want to take this first one?
Yeah, I'll cover this first slide. Jeff can handle the next one. To tell you a little bit about who we are a one-stop shop for both hard money and permanent financing. We provide hard money loans to purchase and repair distressed real estate, as well as permanent financing loans in the form of conforming loans or non-conforming loans. So people who qualify for the best rates and terms, or for people that may have very low FICO scores and no document. Did we get a little feedback there? That was just on my end. Sorry about that.
I hear it.
Okay, we'll carry on. Another big thing that we like to bring to our customers is that we are real estate lenders built by real estate investors. So we participate in a lot of flips ourselves. We have a reasonably large rental portfolio, and we like to bring that experience to you to make sure that you don't make many of the mistakes that we've made over the years. We really focus on having a single point of contact model. So you're going to have the same relationship manager / loan officer, no matter what type of product that you're going to need in the lending arena. All of our loan officers are fully licensed, and you can normally get pre-approved for all of those products with one credit pull, and normally in about 24 to 48 hours. Jeff, you want to take it from there, bud?
So like what I was saying, we do hard money, conventional, and non-conventional. Our non-conventional people, a lot of folks that can't do a conventional loan, maybe because they're self-employed and don't qualify, or they are experienced investor and they've already maxed out their 10 properties. We have a lot of really good competitive non-conventional products that people ask us about. No income doc required. A lot of folks are doing primary refis and primary cash outs right now. Rates are really, really low. So you're able to take advantage of that to increase your monthly cash flow on your personal residence or your rentals. But most of the folks we talk to are taking their residences and pulling cash out of them, or pulling cash out of rentals, because they're using that to go buy properties. The prices in Houston are so high right now. It's just too easy to pull some equity out if you want to buy more properties, but maybe you don't have the cash. We do our non-conventional products. They do start with FICOs as low as 500. So if you have some credit challenge and you have some properties, some rental properties or a rental property, we can still get you done even if you have a low credit score. We have hard money loans that start as low as 6.99 and 2 points. Those are for buy and hold folks. And then we do have a VIP flip program for your experienced flippers, where the rates start as low as 9.99, and we can go down to 1 point for those folks. Next slide.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
So we're going to introduce you to everybody here. Our founder and CEO, Wade Como. If you've been on our webinars before, you've met him. Wade, thanks for being here. Without you, we wouldn't have today's webinar. Wade is a licensed mortgage loan originator, real estate agent, and active investor himself. So he's definitely got his ear to the market. So we're really excited to share some of the info that he's been looking into. Jeff Johnson's our director of lending. He handles all of our lending operations within Catalyst. He's a licensed mortgage loan originator, and he has 20 years of lending experience. And then today we have our special guest, Steve Davis. He is a consultant and mentor with over 30 years of experience. He's helped teach thousands of students how to regain financial freedom through real estate investing. And he is also the founder and owner of the Total Wealth Academy, which in 1 year has grown up to, I think it's 700, right?
Yes, 700.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we've been to his events. They are so much fun. His daughter Katie does a fabulous job putting them together and doing some MC work. They also have a lot of really awesome educational opportunities. I love going to the events because of the free food, but it's also a really wonderful atmosphere to be in. And I will go ahead and pass this over to Wade to talk a little about today's discussion and then also anything else.
Sure. So I want Steve tell us a little bit about what's going on with his organization and his story. So Steve, tell us a little bit about why you created your company.
Well, it really stems from a hard-learned lesson in corporate America. I was working in the health club industry, and I was very effective at my job. Won a national sales contest. They sent me to Hawaii for a week because I was so good and I was so important to the company. And when I got back from Hawaii, they cut my pay by 20 grand a year. And it just woke me up to something that I really already knew, which was you really can't depend on a job. The highest risk position in America is to have a job as your sole source of income. And I started reading, studying, and there was just so much pain. I almost lost my wife too because I was working 70 hours a week. And I just started reading everything I could on real estate investing, buying every set of books and CDs, or back then it was tapes off of late night TV, joined a few real estate investor clubs, and started wholesaling, then flipping, then single family rental, and ended up with about 4,000 units of apartments. And I just saw how it changed my life, and I wanted to be able to share that with other people because there's so much suffering in America financially that it was a great opportunity for me to teach, which is what I love, and to help people achieve what I've achieved. So that's why we built Total Wealth Academy. We just changed our name from Real Wealth to get away from the impression that we're just all about real estate. Total Wealth is more representative of what we do. We have classes on every part of a balanced life, from exercise, fitness, nutrition, relationships. We have kids classes. Again, every part of a balanced life, with a big focus on building a second stream of income with real estate, because that's what facilitates having more time with the kids, more time for romance, more time for travel, and so on. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Steve's been talking about. Whenever we attend their events, it is a very well-rounded training. That's one of the things I really like about it. Sometimes we see people that may not have the ability to really get going early on, and they can really take and handhold them in that early process and teach them different ways to build up their net worth so they can really grow a large portfolio. And it's really fun to also see the other things interwoven, because sometimes people become so singularly focused on money that they're not really happy. And Steve and his team do a great job of bringing in a lot of other things that make you not only achieve the financial stability that you want, but overall happiness that makes such a big difference. All right.
I don't think a lot of people, I'm sorry, I don't think a lot of people even feel that it's okay to be happy. I actually feel like I'm teaching people it's okay to be happy. You should be doing what you love. You should be helping people in a way that makes you feel fulfilled. And you should be building wealth for yourself at the same time. But without the romance, without the family, without your fitness, it all falls apart. It's a sad story, but I heard about a guy, 815 million in the bank, blew his head off about 2 months ago because he had gotten so unbalanced. It was just money, 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 and money by itself does not bring happiness.
That is 100% true. So you guys should definitely check out Steve. We're going to provide his information at the end and his organization. I think it could be a big part of you achieving your goals, not only in the financial area, but across the board in 2021.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So for today's topics, we're going to be talking about the Houston market overview, setting your goals for the new year, and finding deals, how to do so in 2021 and what to look for. we're going to go ahead and jump on in, and I'll pass this one over to Wade.
I think Jeff was going to cover this slide. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I'll cover this slide. And Steve, feel free to hop in. Obviously, you're here because we want your opinions, so feel free to hop in whenever you see fit. But
Sure.
this slide here is going to cover Houston real estate data. It was a great year last year for Houston real estate. If you look at the stats there were 96,000 single-family homes sold for the year versus 87,000 the previous year. So even with coronavirus, there were more real estate single-family homes sold last year than there were ever before, and it broke because 19 was a record and 20 broke that by 10%. So the sheer volume of activity in Houston was out of control. In December, the single-family home sales jumped 25% year over year with 9,600. So, in the beginning of the year, because of coronavirus, it was down quite a bit. And then I think once people figured it out, maybe in April or May, it started catching up, gaining steam, and it really didn't stop. 25% year over year is crazy. Single family home average price climbed 11% to an all-time high of 347. So just think about that for a minute. The average home price in Houston was 347,000. I can remember, that would have been considered a luxury home not too long ago. So right now that's the average price, right? Single family. Now this is the one that's been driving it. And if you read a lot of the articles or if you attend our webinars, you'll know the biggest driver for a lot of these price increases is the lack of supply. Single family home month inventory was at a record low 1.9 months of supply. So just so you understand, for the folks that maybe don't know what that number means, if no other homes were to be listed on the market, it would take 1.9 months to sell everything. And that is, like it says, that is a record number. So there's not a lot of homes out there. And when they get put on the market, they get gobbled up really fast. And we can kind of cover why in a little bit, but these are the sheer stats. And then lastly is a little quote from the Har guy. As of 2021, we find ourselves in critical need of inventory if we are going to sustain a healthy pace of home sales. So, all right, we read those articles, we read the Har reports. And at the beginning of the year, when the numbers were going up, you would see comments that this can't keep up. There's no way this is going to keep up because the inventory just keeps dropping. And he's right. The inventory was dropping. Like the number of available homes was lowering, but they were selling at such a high clip, it outpaced the lack of inventory. If it went on the market, it was getting sold.
Steve, what are your thoughts on the Houston market at this time?
Well, the statistics that Jeff just read, really speak volumes for what's going on. I guess I'm looking 6 months down the road, 9 months down the road, when the COVID response is complete, the masks come off, the moratorium on foreclosures ends. I think that's going to solve the inventory problem pretty quick, because there's 2.8 million homes in forbearance right now. That's 3 to 6 months behind on their mortgages. They're not going to be able to catch up, and they're going to need to liquidate those homes, sell those homes. So I think that's going to be a tremendous amount of property that comes on the market later this year. If you follow Kiyosaki's syndicator, he thinks it's going to happen the fourth quarter. I'm kind of thinking about the same. Middle to the end of the third quarter is when the vaccinations will have effectively gone out to most people. And I think the masks are going to come off at that time. Then it just depends on how quickly the government removes that moratorium on the foreclosures and allows the foreclosures to start occurring again. That's when you're going to see the inventory jump quite a bit. Now, what that's going to do to the market, that's tough to say. It depends on how many of those end up coming on the market. If a huge number, if all of them were to come on the market, it'd switch to a buyer's market pretty quick. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that it's going to slowly but surely correct itself through late 2021 and early 2022. But it's not going to be like 2008 where it went boom. I think it's going to be a very smooth decline and then go back up relatively quickly within a year or two.
Interesting. So I do have a question on the forbearance, because Jeff and I were kind of in that space back in 2007, 2008, and one of the differences, as we understand it, is that in that time, at the end of a forbearance, people were required to pay 100% of their past due mortgage payments. As we understand it, this time on the conventional loans, which are backed by Fannie and Freddie, and the federal government has stated a new policy, which will be, as we understand it, that the person will not be required to make all those payments, that they will be added to the end of their mortgage. We and a few other people that we've read seem to have an opinion that it may not have as big of an impact because people will not be required to catch up this round. Have you heard anything about that? Or has Kiyosaki talked about that at all?
I have. Ken McElroy is the name I was looking for, by the way. He's got an excellent YouTube video on his forecast for 2021.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
I just, it really depends on if the government follows through on that, forcing the banks to throw it on the end. If that occurs, then I think it's going to be a very steady growth if that occurs.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see. I think that's one of the things that is undetermined. They've seemed to be pretty dedicated to that, but we are in a transition in politics, so it will be interesting to see. Although I would say, I would assume that the current leadership may even be more passionate about making sure people don't lose their homes. In my estimation, that could be the case. Anyway,
I think you're right, Wade. I think that Biden is that type of individual. Whether you like his politics or not, he does care deeply about people, from what I've heard about him and out of his mouth. So if he's able to figure out a way to do that, he's going to push for it.
I would tend to agree, but it will be very interesting, and we encourage everybody on the call to keep a close eye on that decision, because I do think that can make a big difference between how many properties we do see come on the market through the foreclosure process. Okay, next slide. We get to that one, Destiny. So we've been talking a little bit about one of the things that is helping not only Houston but all of Texas, and it is the number of people moving to the state. And this is one article that we recently discussed on our market update, but there are many that talk about the influx of people to the state of Texas. And we're just going to hit a few high points here, but Texas was ranked in the top 2 states with the most one-way arrivals since 2015. So that's 5 years since 2015, every year ranked in the top 2 of new people moving into the state. And Texas is number 2 in top 2 for the 5th straight year. Texas had the largest net gain of one-way U-Haul trucks for the 3rd consecutive year before Florida took the top spot this year. There's a few states that are toward the bottom of the list, as you see on that last bullet point. But it's not just the U-Haul data that says this. There's a lot of other data that says this. And we believe that that's one of the reasons that while the foreclosure challenges could impact some states more heavily, especially if they have a shrinking population, we do believe that there's going to be able to be some of this inventory taken up by the people that are moving into the state for a wide variety of reasons, which we'll talk about briefly in a moment, as well as the fact that we just have so little inventory on the market. So we hope that between that and the forbearance situation, we may be able to sop up a lot of that and not have too much impact from the people as the eviction moratoriums wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Jeff.
if you think about it, like so many people that are working from home now, and companies realize that they don't necessarily have to have their staff in the office. A lot of folks that are in areas that are they pay exorbitant prices to be close to work. Everybody goes to work, then what do you care where you live, right? You can work remotely, and relatively speaking, compared to the rest of the country, Texas is cheap still. It's even though our prices have gone up. I mean, unless you're comparing to like Oklahoma or Nebraska, like it's cheap. So you want to, and I'm from Oklahoma, so no disparaging Oklahoma, but it's so much more affordable to live here than a lot of the major metros. It's still a very good buy, and plus it's more business friendly. There's a lot of reasons why people are moving to Texas or Florida, states in the South.
What are your thoughts on that migration? Do you have any thoughts on that, Steve?
Yeah, some of it's from personal experience from some of my clients from California. They're selling, 3,500 square foot homes with no pool for $3 million, coming here and for under $1 million, buying a 5,000 square foot home with a pool, a spa, outdoor kitchen, and they've got $2 million left over to buy more real estate, income producing real estate. So I think there's a lot of reason to move here. No state tax. As Jeff said, it's so much more business friendly. California is almost a socialist state. I think we're going to continue to see this. And I noticed, California is the last. Nobody's moving to California.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to continue.
Yeah, I think
it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that article actually said California was in last place for 5 consecutive years on the net gain or loss. But they are as consistent on that record as Texas is on the top side there, for sure.
Well, to me, it's funny because why doesn't the leadership notice this and go, we're screwing something up here?
Yeah.
It used to be everybody wanted to live in California. I mean, it's beautiful. You go out there, no doubt, it's spectacular.
Yeah.
But for people to just stop moving out there, they're overtaxing them. One of my clients made 2.5 million and paid, I want to say 1.5 in taxes. Now that's everything: property taxes, income taxes, Social Security, Medicaid, all the taxes added up. She had put a little formula together, and it was over half of her money gone.
That would be enough to make someone be more comfortable with humidity and water that isn't quite as clear.
Yeah.
Say 500 grand. I'll
a little
take
bit of
that.
humidity. Yeah. Oh man, that's true. That I've never seen it broken down in that exact way, but that would be a powerful motivator for sure. All right. So let's go to the next slide here. All right.
This is it. Yeah.
So Stephen talked a little bit about the correction that he sees later in the year, which I definitely agree. This forbearance is going to have a big impact in that, and I think we all need to keep an eye on it. Houston has had high appreciation, but it's not like greater than other parts of the country. There are other parts of the country that continue to have higher appreciation. There's no doubt about that. And whenever you look at the affordability index, that's a reference point that I've been looking at ever since my days back in, working with big corporate America lenders throughout my early career. And Houston has always been, and Texas in general, has always been one of the best states in the affordability index, which basically says that is the cost of living versus how much people earn. And if you think about that, people have relatively strong salaries in Texas and in Houston, but the cost of living, like we talked about for a home and other things, is just significantly lower. So that's one of the reasons we think things have a good forecast going forward. Steve touched on this earlier: less regulation, business friendly, lower taxes. People really find that attractive. And then the oil and gas industry has suffered, and that's something I was really interested in seeing. And I think it's definitely had an impact. Oil and gas prices have improved recently, but the current political environment is impacting that as well with the Keystone Pipeline and some other things. So that's going to be a very interesting thing in 2021 as well that we all need to keep an eye on. I will say that whenever oil and gas prices cratered in the 80s, the impact was massive in Houston. But we've been through multiple oil and gas incidents recently that have not impacted Houston nearly as much. And it's really because of the diversification. While oil and gas is still a big part of Houston, there's so much more here now, more Fortune 500 companies outside of that particular space. just, I think a lot of things that allow Houston to weather that storm and not be in a situation where, real estate prices go up and down as oil and gas prices do.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the leadership in Houston has done a great job over the last 20 years of balancing our economy, attracting good non-oil and gas businesses to our state. So I think we're going to continue to see oil and gas. While it still harms certain groups of people, I don't think it's going to harm the entire city like it did when I first moved here in the early 80s. You went from a Ferrari on every street corner to Hyundais on every street corner in a matter of months. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was I wasn't in Houston at that time, but I definitely researched it a lot, and it was a significantly different experience across the board. And it wasn't just real estate or single family. It impacted commercial tremendously, and a lot of other portions of the economy. Unemployment was a lot higher than it has been during this episode, even with the coronavirus. So I agree with you. I think leadership's done a great job in that category.
Yeah, I didn't realize this. I read it somewhere that, and this would probably be the biggest accomplishment of most every city, if not Houston, but I think the medical center has more square footage of just medical space than any other place in the world. It's the largest medical center in the world, I believe. That's huge, and people think of Houston as an oil town, but we have the largest medical facilities in the world.
Yeah, and some that are not only just raw square footage and number of doctors, but world renowned for quality as well. MD Anderson and other facilities are thought to be arguably the best facility to go to. And we see people from all over the country and world come in to have access to those doctors.
Yeah, I want to reiterate that because it is people from around the world flying to Houston. So Wade, you're dead on when you say it's some of the best in the world, because they're coming in from Dubai, India, Japan, which is amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. It's really, really impressive. All right, let's see what we have here. Next, we're going to move into setting your goals. I actually was fortunate enough to attend an event that Steve did the other day, and I was taking a significant amount of notes. He's not going to have as much time today to cover that, but Steve, take the floor on what you think is really big for setting goals this year.
Well, when I did the class, I had 2 hours to do it. I'll try to synopsize it with the most important points, which you can see on the screen. The thing that I urge people to do is make a big enough commitment that you're willing to write it down. If you're not willing to write it down, it's still just a dream. It's not really a goal yet. So getting your goals written down changes your focus. It makes you more committed to the project or goal, and it gives you clarity as you're making decisions on a daily basis. Because once you write down a goal, every decision that you make needs to be moving you toward that goal. And what people will find is before they write them down, they don't know. They're just making random decisions, saying yes to this, saying yes to that. I call it the power of no. Being able to say no to things that don't take you towards your goals. One of the most common that the members are experiencing, and they've emailed me about it, is telling your boss you can't work on Saturday. When you have the goal written down that you want to build your relationship with your son because you're having some difficulties in that area, and you've written down that goal, and you've got plans to take him to a ball game on Saturday, and your boss comes in and asks you to work on Saturday, it gives you the power and the confidence to say, no, I need to spend time with my son. It could be romance that's suffering. It could be your fitness that's suffering. But it's the power of no once you write your goals down. The other thing that it does is it gets the left side of your brain, the logical side of your brain, involved. When you just keep them in your mind, you're only using the creative or right side of your brain. Once you write them down, you're literally doubling your brain power towards your goals. I mentioned number 2, every decision that you make must take you toward your goal. 3, remember what Napoleon Hill said almost 120, 130 years ago. Nothing can resist the onslaught of continuous thought. It really can't. If you sit and think solution-based, proactively, not focused on the problem, focused on the solution, there's nothing anybody watching this cannot overcome. I know, Wade, you've had challenges. I'm sure you have too, Jeff. And you just focus on the solution. Think, read. You're missing a piece, listen to a CD, listen to a webinar till you find that piece that's missing so that you can move forward towards your goal. Then number 4 is fun for me because it shocks people. You need to write down everything. Weight goals, travel goals, fitness goals. How often do you want romance and sex? Write it down. See, that one gets people's attention because that gets put on the side burner like, oh, that's whenever. No, write it down. Everything that you want out of life, you deserve it. But if it doesn't get written down and become a priority, it becomes other people's priorities become your priorities. So get everything written down, then review your written goals daily for 60 days, weekly for an additional 90 days, and then monthly thereafter, or when you just need a quick review. Like about a month ago, I was prepared to teach a class, and I woke up in the middle of the night with some self-doubt, some negativity in my head, and I was like, why are people listening to me? What, am I really as good as I think I am? Blah, blah, blah. So I got up probably 2:30 in the morning, reviewed my goals, and then I put in a CD of Anthony Robbins, or actually audio on the computer of Anthony Robbins, and just pumped myself full of goal setting information, began focusing on my goals, and it completely changed my state. I was able to lay back down and get some rest before I had to teach the class. And that leads to number 6, which is believe in yourself, because you are successful at every single thing that you do. If what happens when I say that to people is I can see them going, what are you talking about? I don't have the relationships I want. I'm not in the physical condition I want, blah, blah, blah. And they point out all the things they don't have. But bear with me when I ask you this. How many of you were told to go get a job? You did it. That's success. How many of you were told to buy a big house or medium-sized house, whatever? You were told to buy a house. You did it. Told to buy a car. You did it. See, you're successful at everything that you do. But what people start confusing that with is they go, but it's not giving me the results I want, so that's not success. You got to back off of that a little bit. You were told those things were going to give you a different result, that the path to success is buy a big house, get a pretty wife, get a high-paying job with benefits. And then when you realize those things don't give you the results that you want, you think you're a failure. No, you successfully got the wrong things. And that's what you've got to understand. What if, though, I had been your dad, and at age 8, I started telling you, you need a second stream of income with real estate. Get a job that you love, that makes you happy. I'm telling you, at age 8, I told my son, age 8, I told my daughter, age 16, son, you didn't forget you need a second stream of income, right? And I mean, just every year I'm pounding it into their heads. My son graduated college with 11 rent houses and $4,000 a month passive income. Why? Because he had the right map. He was told the right things to do. And if you had been told the right things to do, if you'd have been told from the time you were 8, you were supposed to have a second stream of income, every single person watching this would have a second stream of income right now. But you were never told, were you? It's middle-class beliefs being passed off to middle-class kids who come up middle class and teach their kids middle-class beliefs. You need, it doesn't have to be me, but you need a multimillionaire mentor on your team that can give you the right goals so that when you succeed, you get the results that you want. So please get your goals written down, believe in yourself. You are successful. It just may be at ineffective things so far, but the past does not equal the future. I'm borrowing that from Tony Robbins. The past does not equal the future. You can change everything by changing what you have written down as goals.
Yeah, that's
Good
powerful.
stuff.
Yeah. You know, whenever you say that, it makes me, we were just talking on a meeting earlier this week about writing down priorities and preventing fires instead of fighting them. And that has, I mean, if you think about that, you know, and that's in business, but it's also in life, because to your point, if you could stay busy every day, right? There's so much stuff going on in life. And even if it's not productive, it could just be watching television or endless Netflix or whatever it is. But whenever you come at life with, these are the things that are my priorities, and I am going to put them at the top of the list, and I'm going to prevent this world where it's more chaotic and I don't feel like I'm accomplishing the things I want to accomplish because I'm just doing whatever comes at me, right? I'm just doing exactly what I'm told, and I've got people taking away at my time, and it's never strategic. So the goal writing process is powerful. And I also think whenever you do that, whether it be in your work day or in your overall life, you realize that it's not as overwhelming as you think. Because whenever you write down the things that are really important to you, it's more of a small manageable list than you really think it is, and you can impact that every single day. Whenever it's all this, whenever it's not written down, it becomes overwhelming, and it seems like you just think, man, there's so many things I need to do, that you never start to feel confident in your ability to actually make progress. So I love that goal setting process, writing it down in every category of your life. And it shouldn't be a laundry list of like 100 things. It should be a finite group of things that matter most.
Yeah,
I do like number two. I'm sorry, I do like number two, how that when you have those goals, it makes making decisions so much easier. You know, what are you going to do today? What do you do with your time? This happens or that happens. If you have, if you really understand what you're striving towards, it makes those decisions much easier in life.
Yeah, the power for me came when I read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen Covey. And Wade, your points are in that book where there's the 4 quadrants, and most people are in the urgent and unimportant quadrant all the time. They're putting out fires. It's urgent. They've got to do it right then, but they're neglecting the not urgent but important quadrant, which is romancing your wife, raising your kids, building your second stream of income, and so on. But the power of no, I want to revisit that because, Jeff, your point is very accurate and poignant, because I'll give you an example. I almost lost my wife when I was working 70 hours a week. And I never wanted, by the way, we're celebrating our 34th anniversary this Sunday. And
Congratulations.
Thank you. And guys would come up to me and they go, hey man, let's do a guys' night out. I immediately thought, does this bring me closer to my wife? Does it help me raise my kids? Does it make me any money? All my goals went across my mind, and I went, going out with a bunch of guys, 1, doesn't sound that much fun, and 2, it doesn't bring me towards any of my goals. So I never did the golf, I never did the sports, I never did, because they didn't bring me towards my goals. And that's one example of every decision you make's got to move you towards your goal. Otherwise, it's moving you away from it. And then another great point you made, Wade, doggone it, I've forgotten it, but you made a bunch of good points, Wade. Thanks.
Oh, no worries, man. I enjoyed that goal setting thing. It was good.
It'll come to you later, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll pop up.
Always does.
Webinar.
In at any time for sure. So next we're going to cover top 3 tips, and Jeff, Steve, and I all came up with these. So we're going to talk about 3 categories of the real estate investment space. We're going to talk about wholesaling, we're going to talk about flipping, and we're going to talk about buy and hold in the single family space. Steve and his team handle a lot of things outside of that, but that's what we're going to stay focused on today, is in the single family space. So I believe on this next slide, that is your first point there, right, Steve? You want to build your buyers list?
Yeah, I had been in the sales industry, in the health club industry. It's really all sales. yeah, you work people out, but you're working them out to get them to lose weight, to tell their friends to come in and sign up. So I understood right up front as I was buying all these courses on wholesaling that there was something missing. All the courses were saying, go find a deal. And they gave you the impression that buyers are going to drop out of the sky if you find a great deal. And I was like, no, I'm not going to look for deals. I'm going to go build my buyers list first. And I joined a couple real estate investor clubs. I had about 30 or 40 buyers on my list. Then I started looking for deals, and I brought them to the buyers, and I never held a deal more than 48 hours before it was sold.
Yeah, I think that is a very important point. And, you know, one of the things we did not mention in who we are at the beginning of the webinar, but that we do is we do have an acquisitions team. And I know that Steve and his group also have a group of agents that help. So if you are newer and you don't have your buyers list built out, definitely make contacts with people who could place those properties for you. And I think that can also be very powerful. Steve's team does a great job of that. Our team can do a great job of that. So while it is very important to build your buyers list, I think as long as you have qualified professionals that you work with, that can also help a tremendous amount early. And we work with some more experienced wholesalers that just choose to outsource it. But so there is a way to do that, but you better have good people, because if you get that deal, they're hard to find. You might spend tens of thousands of dollars and countless hours trying to get it. And then if you don't have anywhere to put it, that can be a real problem and total waste of time for sure.
Think about how discouraging that would be, because like you said, sometimes it's very difficult to get deals. So you work and work and work to find a deal, and then if you don't have a good outlet to sell it, then it's just, not only did you waste your time and money, it's just mentally so draining and discouraging. Like, what am I doing out here? So my point down there at the bottom, prep your seller for your appointment. So, you know, if you are wholesaling and you do a good job and you're able to find somebody that is willing to let you come out to the property, that's great. So there are a lot of things you want to do, but the main things that I put down there are, one, you want to make sure all of your decision makers are there. So if it's a husband and wife, or maybe an elderly person and they have a child that's helping them through this process, you want them there, because it's hard enough as is to convince somebody to sell their house to you at a discount. But then if you walk away from that, they're the ones that have to sell it to somebody else. It's almost never going to happen. So you want to be able to present your offer to everybody that's going to need to make that decision right then and there. Two, before you head out there, ask them about any repairs that they've already made or that they know they're going to need to make. If they think about all the things that are, because everyone has wish lists for their house. I mean, unless it's brand new or immaculate, you know, there's things that they want to get fixed. So it gets them thinking, okay, well, these are all the things that I would want to fix to sell my house. That's money they probably don't have. So you're getting in that mindset of, like, if I don't sell to this guy, what am I going to do? Also, ask them what they did do, because a lot of times you're trying to justify, hey, it's going to cost X amount of dollars to get this house fixed up. Well, if they did a kitchen renovation and it cost them $10,000 plus, you know, they're probably going to spend more than what an investor is going to spend. So you get a sense for like what their perspective is on how much it costs to fix things. And then last thing, let them know you're going to make a cash offer that day on the spot. You want to get them in the mindset that you're serious, and that if you come in with a good offer, they're going to sign right then and there on the spot. So many shopping experiences are, let me think about it, I'll get back to you. No, you want to get them to make a decision right then and there. Let them know you're going to make a cash offer on the spot, and that offer is good for that day. And you know, there's a good chance that when you walk away, that offer walks away with it.
I love that point, Jeff. That is so, getting them in the seller's mode over the phone before you head over there. That is really good, Jeff. I like that.
Yes, if there's no deadline on the offer, then people often are in this situation. They have procrastinated, maybe not made the best decisions. The probability of them making a quick decision that is really beneficial to them, because they're often facing foreclosure or have massive problems with their home that are only going to get worse over time. It really helps them to move forward with some urgency if you present the situation with urgency, right? Okay, next one here, flipping for 2021. Steve, I believe that top one is yours. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on flipping.
Yeah, when I was flipping, I started off doing just what needed to be done. And I learned very quickly that my days on market were 2 and 3 times what they should have been. And I started making everything perfect. And it started on a very expensive home where I had put in an $18,000 chandelier right as you walked in. And the woman comes in, looks at the house, doesn't even notice the chandelier, and goes, "You missed a spot." Points to a little nick, not an inch across, on the crown molding. And it taught me the lesson that everything matters. It has to be perfect. Here's an analogy. If the most beautiful woman in the world steps out in the most beautiful dress, I'm talking skinny waist, big boobs, nice rear, just the most beautiful girl in the world, most beautiful dress, and there's one black spot on the lower right, what's the first thing that you see? The black spot. You're going to see the black spot. We're just natural. We evolved that way. We always see whatever's not supposed to be there first. If you make mistakes in your house, any mistakes, that's the first thing your prospect sees.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And it's very important to rehab to the level of the comps, but then to do everything where it is absolute best in class. You know, you don't want to take a house that's a $200,000 house and put a Wolf Range in it. You want to put what's appropriate for the market, but the attention to detail. When a person walks in that house, it's an emotional decision in most instances, and you don't want to give any small reason to say this is not my house. And I can't emphasize how important it is. You're always going to get the best offers in the first, couple of days in this market. Like if you're not getting a great offer in the first couple of days, there is something fundamentally wrong because it is such a hot market. So that's a great thought.
Agreed.
My bullet point is on for the newer flippers out there, just being cautious of where you select to do your flips. In my opinion, the well-defined suburban neighborhoods that have really well-defined comps for newer people, it's a very safe investment. You may not have the upside at times, but you have 8 comps that say it's going to be worth between 300 and 310 whenever you get done, and that is a very safe investment for the average investor. Now, we have some people that we work with that do an excellent job, like they are the Edo expert, or they're the other parts of town, wherever it might be. They're the expert in that area, and they know the street by street, because that can be so different. You can see comps, if you're going to do it in a more urban area, you can see comps 3 streets over that are not applicable to your street because you're adjacent to some rundown homes, or maybe an apartment complex that's not in great condition or something like that. So I do really encourage, if you're going to get into a more urban area, that you just talk with a lender or some other type of mentor, somebody on Steve's team or another team, so that you make sure that you're not getting into a bad spot. Because the people we've seen get hurt on the flips are often in those transitional eclectic neighborhoods where you just think you're going to get 500 and it just ends up that you can't get more than 400 because you didn't properly understand the neighborhood.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, if you're a newer flipper and you're just get at this, one common mistake I've seen people make is that they will have a house that they're going to buy for a flip, and they will be using comps and it's on a relatively major street, and they're using comps 1 or 2 streets back. Would you rather have a house on Westheimer or 2 streets back of Westheimer, right? So make sure that if you have don't get fooled by comps that are not on a major street. And you need to know the area well enough to determine what major streets are. But I've seen a lot of folks buy deals where that can be a massive difference in the market. You only want to look at comps that are on that street or on a comparable major street. Last thing I had down there, and this is, for newer flippers, things that you don't necessarily see when you watch the TV shows right? When you're going into a deal, make sure you estimate your holding costs. You're going to have hard money payments. You're going to have closing costs, realtor costs, right? You're going to spend 5 to 6%. And if you're getting a flip at, say, in the mid 70s, as far as 75, 76% LTV, you're, 6% of that's going to get gobbled up in realtor fees. So your profit margins get squeezed. So just kind of know going in, what your expectations are. It's not all about purchase price and rehab. You sell it and you get what's left over. There's a lot of things in between that. And then the last thing is the money out of pocket versus profit. Like a lot of deals these days, you'll see, okay, I'm going to flip a property. I'm going to come out of pocket 30 grand at closing, and I'm going to expect, okay, I need to make at least $30,000 profit, right? That ratio a lot of times holds true. If you can get a lower out of pocket and a higher return, great. But I think that's like a good baseline. Say, okay, if I'm going to spend $30,000 out of pocket on a flip, I expect to make $30,000 at the end of it when it's all said and done.
Absolutely. All right, if we don't have anything else on that topic, we're getting a little tight on time. So we're going to move on to top 3 tips for buy and hold investors. I think this first bullet point is mine. And I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about so many people that we've seen over the years. We really opened these businesses back in 2012. And I remember people saying, man, I'm waiting on the next downturn. I want it to be like 07, 08 again. I had a buddy who got these great deals. And, I'm going to wait on the next downturn. And that was a very, very unique event. It was totally built on the real estate market. Something else that I think is very different is that if you look at credit quality at that time, it was much lower than it is today. And also the overall products that were being provided were up to 125% LTV across much of the country. A lot of stated income documentation for owner-occupied loans, just a lot of really wacky stuff, honestly, when you go back and look at it. And I think we're just in a little bit of a different time. So I don't know that anything's going to be that cataclysmic again. There could certainly be a correction, as Steve said, but I don't see it being like that was. But at the end of the day, what's interesting is, homes have been appreciating about 7.5% on average. Last year was even greater. And if you keep waiting on that downturn, I mean, if you thought that in 2012 and you've still been holding out on it, I mean, what has the appreciation been in 8 years? Like, even if there is a downturn of 10%, you still are way upside down. Plus, you haven't been paying down the mortgage for the last 8 years, earning cash flow every single month that you've been missing out while having your investments in other areas that are far more unstable, stock market or other things like that. So in my opinion, you want to get good cash flowing deals that have appreciation opportunity with some equity capture, and then get in the game. I don't believe in passing them up over a couple $1,000s whenever you're probably going to appreciate exponentially more than that in year one. Even if the market does start to slow down, there's a good chance that that would be the case. And if it does go down a little bit this year, which is always a possibility, historically, the numbers say it'll be bouncing back very, very quickly.
So it's going down is a good buying opportunity, right? Like, don't try and time the market. My tip down there, as far as buy and hold investors, most buy and hold investors that I know have day jobs, so they are buying from wholesalers. So be a valued buyer. Buying from a wholesaler is very different from buying on the market. It's not like you're going to an open house or anything like that. It's a very different experience. Most wholesalers, they get 1, maybe 2 cracks at selling the deal. So if you're going to be one of the people that show up to a wholesale property, you want to be serious, because if you burn those bridges too often, you will not be the person that gets that phone call the next time, right? So what does that mean? That means, A, show up with money, be ready to pull the trigger. 2, do your research well before you show up, or decide to even be one of those people, right? Don't show up and say, well, I didn't think the ARV worked out. You should already have that dialed in. You know what that house is worth. If they have pictures, you should have a really good idea of what the budget is. Drive it beforehand, get an idea of what the street scene is. So that's not going to be one of your excuses. You really need to be walking this property thinking, okay, this budget lines up with what I think it's going to be. The area is good. Let's do the deal. Do not waste your opportunities, because those wholesalers, they get 1 or 2 cracks at it before the seller start asking questions, and it becomes a problem.
I might say one thing on that. whenever we buy deals from wholesalers, and we have people that buy from us at times. And what we really encourage is that the visit is a verification process. It is not an evaluation process. You should have already determined your ARV. You should have looked at their repair budget, looked at the photographs, and say, I can, as long as there's no surprises, the numbers match up, and I'm bringing my money, and I plan on buying this property today. As long as I'm the winning, my name is pulled out of the hat or whatever the case may be. But too often people go into it as an evaluation process, and that's a mistake. And to Jeff's point, there's a good chance you will not be on that wholesalers list next time because they just can't have a parade of homes for weeks on end. It is usually an urgent process, and that is why someone is selling the home at a discount. Steve, your last bullet point is yours, and anything else that you think you want to opine upon that we've already covered?
You guys really hit the nail on the head. There's really, really good points. I just want to remind people that you're an investor, not a speculator. Don't go out and pay full price for a home waiting for it to go up in value. That's not investing, that's speculating, that's gambling. We're buying property 10, 15, and I think 20, 25% below market, and that's the all in. So if it's a $200,000 house, you're all in at 180 or below. Closing costs, holding costs, rehab, everything, 180 or below. And the thing should cash flow 350, 450. A couple of deals I saw in the last few days are cash flowing over $500 per house. So get that cash flow. Don't ever buy anything that's negative cash flow, and never pay full price for a rental property.
100%. Yeah, we do see people sometimes that come in and they're like, oh, I'm making an appreciation play. That's not a play you have to make. You can find properties that have equity capture up front and have cash flow, and that's what investment is. It's not just hoping that things skyrocket because you're in a transitional area and you've outsmarted everybody. That's not the investment you have to make.
Yeah, the California listeners of my radio show are the worst at that. They're always doing that. Oh, I bought it for 300,000. How much was it worth? 300,000. I will fly out there to your neighborhood and buy one for 240.
Yeah. Just need to find one that has a little bit of problems with it, right?
Yeah, a little hair on the deal.
That's right, a little paint and lipstick. We got a few minutes before we go to questions. I think we are going to go a little bit beyond one. I'm going to talk about this briefly. We're just going to talk a little bit about finding deals. One, down at the bottom, mentorship organizations like Steve's and others, and then wholesalers, building those relationships is very, very important. And understanding, I think it's an important thing to understand, if you are not spending the money on all the things above, you can pay more because someone is bringing you the deal. You can get better deals if you're going to pay for a CRM. You're going to start to do text campaigns, cold callers, ringless voicemail, postcards, SEO, pay-per-click. Those are, and I would say if you look at that group, the things that are the hottest things right now are the number 2, 3, and 4. That's what we see as being most effective on a cost-effective basis. And you should be able to get those deals that Steve was talking about with even more cash flow. And you should be able to get deals that have better equity capture because there's not a middleman in between there that's providing a service, right? With that said, what you should not expect is that you're going to get the absolute rock bottom price. You have to understand what the market will bear, and wholesalers are going to sell it at the price at which the market will bear. So if you're not having to do those things, suck up your time, money, and energy, you just want to bake that in. So you should have a different purchase price you're willing to pay if you're spending all that time and energy and money than if you're buying it from someone on Steve's team or someone like that. But if you're getting into the game, I definitely encourage you to have a CRM because you don't want to spend money and not have it organized. And then those top 3, in my opinion, are the most cost-effective: text, cold callers, and ringless voicemail through virtual assistants. That's something we're using, and a lot of the other major buyers in town are doing the same.
Let me unmute myself. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was wonderful. So we have just another minute or so, but we might go a little bit past. We do have 3 questions, and If anybody on here hasn't asked a question yet and you guys are interested, please use the question box. It should be on the right or left-hand side of your screen, depending on your device. Steve, thanks so much for joining us today. I really loved your goal setting course. I was actually at your event as well with Wade. It was wonderful, and you definitely squished a lot here, and I really appreciated that. It's really good information, and I was reading the same book that you got some of that inspired from just yesterday. I have it on audiobook, and I listened to it when I walk around with my dog, and it was on that chapter where you're talking about left brain, right brain, and I was like, oh wow, Steve's read it too, and then you mentioned the book, and I'm like, okay, cool, we're on the same page. But yeah, really great information, and it actually segues into one of the questions that we got. So one of the questions is, you mentioned several authors you have read. Can you recommend any other helpful books or authors that can help me achieve my goals and stay focused on them? So that's one of our questions for today.
You know, I have a member and mentor reading list. I would be happy to email anybody. And I've even got a PDF of one of the books to help them get started. So my email is right there. I don't want anybody worried about emailing me. That's what I do all day. Email me and just say reading list, and I will send you the reading list and that copy of the book.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay, great. Awesome, Steve. And my next question I have is, this one says, when you say the market will correct, what do you mean?
By market correction, I think we're seeing some inflated prices because people are all stuck at home. They're looking around their home going, man, this piece of crap. They want to buy a new home. As you've seen, they're all buying new homes because Wade and Jeff are getting them 3% interest, or owner occupants are even less than that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
Crazy.
I think that's going to slow down as people go back to work. And then when the foreclosures, however many of them do hit, that will kind of lower the price. I think we're going to see the average sale price and the median price drop a little bit. That's what I mean. We've got an inflated price right now. That's going to correct back down to what it really should be, which may be 20, it might be $30,000 less. I don't know.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Steve. This is just, they just put CRM. This might be for you, Wade, because you just mentioned it. They just put CRM with a couple question marks. So that does mean customer relationship management. But maybe, Wade, if you want to expand a little bit on what a CRM is or which best ways to use it. And then again, Craig, if I'm not getting your question right, please write back in there and let me know.
Yeah, that's a mistake I often have. I use acronyms or industry terms that are not always easily understood. So that is definitely customer relationship management software. But what it does is it's really an organization tool to make sure that you capture people's information that are potentially interested sellers of distressed real estate, because it's going to cost time and money to acquire those people. So one, you want to make sure that you reach out to those people in a timely fashion. You have a multi-pronged approach to try and reach them. And then, you know, we used to own a HomeVestors franchise in the past. And one of the things that they always said is 50% of your buys come from follow-up. While Jeff's point earlier was extremely important, you want to stress urgency, and that can be a very successful approach on a significant portion of your buys. The estimate that we have is 50%. That other 50% may be 3 months, 6 months, a year down the road, and you have to have an email drip campaign, a text strategy, reminders for phone calls. Maybe it's a postcard, but you need to have a CRM to organize all of that so you take the best, most effective approach to working your leads.
Awesome. Thank you, Wade. Our next question is, how do you all, so this one's for everybody, feel about urban or ex-urban properties, say 60 to 90-minute drive from central Houston?
I'll start that one if that's okay.
Sure.
I like any area where the homes are between $150,000 and $250,000 is where my students are staying. The misconception is that a $400,000 house will rent for twice what a $200,000 house will, and it won't.
Mhm.
Like, the higher you go, the lower the rent per dollar spent is. So that's the sweet spot, the $150,000 to $250,000 ARV. So yes, going out to those areas where they have homes like that, especially, I'm not sure where this person is from. If you're in California, you're gonna have to go 60 to 90 minutes away from downtown to find homes at that price. We're probably going 30 minutes away from downtown, 45 minutes away from downtown to find them. And then I recommend a 30-minute circle. If you choose to do that, keep all of your homes in a 30-minute circle. What makes me irritated is when people buy property all over the place just to make the money. I'm telling you, keep them in a 30-minute circle. So if you do have to drive from downtown out there, all your houses are in that 30-minute circle. And that increases your quality of lifestyle, reduces the amount of time it takes to manage the property. Again, don't buy them all over the place.
Yeah, one of the things are, I definitely agree with Steve that, as I mentioned earlier, the suburban deals, both on flips and buy and holds, are good opportunities. There are some deals in the urban areas as well, but I think your price point is often going to be higher for comparable homes, and it's also not well-defined subdivisions, and it's kind of street to street. So you just need to be educated on that. The other thing I will mention is that we really focus on our acquisitions and disposition team, understanding where people want to buy, because we do think that people are willing to pay a little bit more, to Steve's point, for quality of life if a property's close to them. Not only, managing the rehab, if you got to drive 90 minutes, that's not an easy thing to do, and it's certainly not going to be quality of life. Maybe you can manage through it during the rehab and it's not as bad when you move forward. Maybe you have property management, maybe you don't, but the rehab is going to be taxing, and to do an efficient quality job, it is ideal to have things closer to home. And if you're working with, like I'm sure Steve's team and other wholesalers, if you say, hey, look, my sweet spot is the greater Bay Area, Friendswood, Clear Lake, Pearland, you're going to be able to find a good partner that can help you find something in an area that works for you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right. I think we have time for one more question. This is deals we are finding from wholesalers are too expensive for us to make work. Suggestions, ? We are having to use hard money, work full time, and we don't have our own time to look for deals. So I think they're just asking for suggestions to find maybe some lower price point wholesale deals, or where they should go to look for those deals. I know we send out deals, so if you're not on our list, guys, yeah, jump on in.
I'll make one quick comment on that. I think you have to understand, is your expectation reasonable? If your expectation is reasonable, then you might need to find new wholesalers. But we see a lot of people who do not get in the game because they have expectations that are unreasonable, and the market is bearing certain things. To Steve's point earlier on buy and hold, you got to have equity capture, and you got to have cash flow. But we see people who want 30% equity capture, and that's just not what the market will bear. And if that is your expectation, and you don't have the ability to market and buy properties on your own, you're going to miss out. So then the question is, do I just not want to be in real estate? So what other asset class are you going to go to that can provide a comparable return to what the market will bear currently, right? Because most people, Steve's point earlier, are paying somewhere on buy and holds, probably best 75%. I don't know wholesalers that are putting deals out at 75% for buy and hold. Normally it's going to be 85 plus. So that's what the market will bear. So you look at that, your cash flows significant, your cash on cash returns, over 20%. What other asset class is going to bring you that type of return, along with someone paying down your mortgage and eventually having exponentially higher cash flow because you don't have a mortgage any longer? I think that's what you have to do, is compare asset classes, in my opinion. If you're not finding people that are giving you deals at 85 to 90% on buy and hold and 75 to 77.5% on flips, then you probably need to find new wholesalers.
And
awesome. Thanks, Wade.
let me
right.
put one thing in real quick, Destiny.
Yep.
The other thing is, with all due respect to all wholesalers, I think it's about 25 to 1. I look at 25 wholesale deals to find one that's perfect for me. So it's really just a numbers game. Keep looking, and those deals, I mean, the deal you sent me the other day, Wade, was a home run. So they're out there. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged.
Absolutely.
Guys, do you have time? I just scrolled down and we got 2 more questions. Do you have time for 2 more before we close out today?
I do.
Okay. So this one might be, I think this is when Jeff had his slide talking about wholesale. It says, when you bring cash to the sale / check / proof of funds, when you say. So I think they're just asking for clarification on that, like what they need to bring and why.
Sure, you want to bring, most people are going to use hard money, and there's a lot of reasons why. So you want to bring a hard money pre-approval, and you want to bring a cashier's check. You want to find out, usually it'll tell you on the email blast or the wholesale blast how much it's going to take. If it's, if you talk to the wholesaler, which you should know how much it's going to take, but you want to have a cashier's check ready to go. Just find out the amount. And it's just a question of whether or not the deal, like Wade said earlier, whether you can verify that what was presented in the email and what you did your research on is reality.
And I would add to that, be cautious with wholesalers. To Steve's point, not only are sometimes their emails not credible, there are some wholesalers that are not credible. I would definitely do your due diligence. There are horror stories of wholesalers collecting multiple non-refundable deposits and not actually giving anybody the deal. So I'm not saying that happens all the time, but you want to work with somebody that's a referral, or work with somebody that's associated with a networking organization like Steve's organization, Total Wealth, or someone who has an online presence that's quality and has positive reviews. If someone has none of those things, then I would just be cautious, because it is a non-refundable deposit presented to the wholesaler in most instances. And if you're working with someone reputable, that's not a big deal at all. But if you don't have any way in which you can trust them, then I just encourage you to be cautious.
All right, I've got one more question before we close it out for the day. This question is, in order to generate 2 or 3 deals a month, how much would I have to invest in marketing?
Oh, that is a loaded question. So it depends on the type of advertising you do and your quality as a buyer, which is a huge driver. I mean, we worked at an organization that had a national buying presence, and with the same lead flow, there are people that it only costs $1,500 per buy, and other people it costs $6,000 per buy, right? That's a huge disparity with what should be equitable lead distribution. And we see that across the industry. So early on, I would say it's going to cost a lot more than you probably think to buy your first one, because candidly, no matter who you are, you're probably going to screw up a couple. Just because you're nervous, or you don't have your pitch down, or you're not really finding value, or you're not listening well, whatever the case may be. But the good news is you get better, just like everything else in life. It gets better. You read books, you listen to webinars, you hear other people pitch, you find a mentor, and it does get better. But I would not go into it expecting to be able to buy a deal for less than several $1,000s. And I would go with the less expensive options early on, because if you go like pay-per-click, outrageously expensive, mailers are very expensive as well. But there are some alternatives that are more reasonably priced. If you're willing to hustle, you're willing to text the deals on your own, or you're willing to do some voicemail drops on your own, buy a little bit of technology, there's some options where you might be able to be in just a few $1,000s, and then really take the time. When you get a hot deal, don't rush into it. Think through the situation, just like you're making a pitch to anything. Like if you're going to raise capital somewhere, you're going to a job interview, like you prep for that thing. Make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, because those opportunities are going to be rare whenever you're first getting started, and not spending a tremendous amount of money on advertising. Anything to add to that?
Thanks, Wade.
Went on a bit of a diatribe there, but
Yeah, that's a tough question.
I would say if you're gonna be bad early, bad cheap, not expensive. Don't spend a lot of money on paperwork and stuff like that. Ease into it.
Okay, from Jeff, be bad and cheap. That's what I heard.
Fantastic advice.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for staying on. And thank you so much, Steve, for joining us. When is your next meeting so we can tell everybody on here?
Well, there's they can go to gettotalwealth.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, we have a free sample class for non-members where they can come in a relaxed atmosphere, see a sample class. We explain how our coaching and consulting works. And the easiest way is you can also email me a question. The email is there, or go to gettotalwealth.com. In the upper right-hand corner, it will say free class.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks,
Thank
guys,
you.
for being on. This was a great webinar.
Thanks,
Thank you
Steve.
so much.
See you.
Thanks, Steve.
Take care, everybody. Take care, Jeff.
All right.
All righty. Bye-bye, guys.